Welcome to the channel, and welcome to the first video of a new series I'm going to do, which is going to be RV upgrades. These upgrades are geared towards my needs. My needs are, I'm a weekender. I go out for 3-4 days at a time at most, or most of the time. At most I'll be out for about 10 days-ish if I'm going out for a hunting trip or something like that. We're not van lifers, we're not full-time RVers, nothing like that. So we're not looking at doing anything really crazy so that we can actually live in our RV for extended periods of time. This video is about installing dual propane tanks. The Aspen Trail that we bought last year, it's a 1950 BH, only came with a single tongue-mounted propane tank. We want to run two. We do a lot of cooking outside, and this trailer actually happens to have a really nice kitchen, outdoor kitchen in it. It's a fridge and a stove with quick propane connect, and we want to be able to run our barbecue off of that quick propane connect as well. And we want to be able to not worry about propane in the middle of the night if we're gonna, the furnace is gonna end up shutting down because we ran out of propane. The indoor fridge is gonna stop working because no propane, stuff like that. So what we did is we went and picked up a dual propane mount kit along with a dual propane regulator. This regulator has the automatic changeover, so once it detects low enough pressure on the current tank, it will switch over to the other tank. That way, we run out of propane in the middle of the night, no big deal. It'll switch over to the other tank, trailer will stay warm throughout the night, the fridge will stay cold throughout the night, and then we can always take that tank off or the empty tank off and refill it. So what you'll need to do this is first your mounting kit. We picked this kit up at off Amazon, relatively inexpensively. I'm not affiliate with Amazon or anything right now, but I will put a link for it in the description below if you're interested in this kit. This kit's very basic. All it has is a plate. It's actually a really nice heavy steel plate that looks like it's got a pretty decent paint job on it. I don't know if it's powder coat or just regular paint or what, but looks pretty decent. But that's the plate that you're going to mount to the bottom of your trailer, and or to the tongue of your trailer, and that the two tanks are going to actually sit on. It then also comes with a length of ready rod or threaded rod. It does not come with these nuts. I bought these separately just because it does need some sort of jam nut for the bottom, and I don't want to mount the regulator in the way that they suggest. So, but it comes with the ready rod. The ready rod just threads right into here, into the bottom of the plate. It has like basically a threaded nut in the bottom of the plate, and then you thread the rod in, and that's what these other nuts are going to be for. Is I want to use one as a jam nut, basically locking that ready rod in place. Otherwise, while you're taking off and on the tank holder with this, is you're going to potentially either move that rod up or down as you're going. This is just going to hold that in place much more secure, and we're going to use a bit of thread lock in the process as well. The other two nuts that I bought are going to be to mount the regulator. The original thought process, I guess, by the manufacturer is you put this down on top of your tanks, and then you put your regulator on like that. Here, I may as well pull it out of the tank, out of the bag. So then you put your regulator on in between your two tanks, and then as you secure your tanks down, you secure the regulator at the same time. The problem is, if you don't have tanks on or anything like that, you have nothing securing your regulator anymore. So my plan is to mount this just below the tank holder, in between these two nuts, jam them together, throw some Loctite on them, they'll be good to go. And then it'll always be there, whether I got tanks on the trailer or not. The regulator is just going to hang off of this piece of threaded rod. Okay, and so with the kit as well, it comes with the tank holder and then a wing nut to tighten it down. Just like that. And so if you had 2 tanks on here, these would go into the handles, and then you just tighten it down onto the tanks and it holds them in place. This one is built for 20-pound tanks. Obviously, if you wanted 30-pound tanks, they do sell a different model kit. Basically, all it is, it has a longer set piece of ready rod. If you change your mind in the future, just go buy another set of ready rod. This is 1/2 inch by 13 coarse thread, 13 NC. And so also, if you decide to go with this kit and you need the nuts, they are 1/2 inch by 13 NC. And that is it for the actual mount. Then you need a regulator. Obviously, if your trailer only had 1 propane tank on it, it has a regulator that can only handle 1 propane tank. Now you could branch off of that if you wanted to, but you wouldn't have the automatic changeover. So you would either end up leaving both tanks open, or you would have to go and close one tank, open the other tank as one tank empties. This gets rid of that. The other side of just using a Y adapter on a single tank regulator is, with it, then you have to actually turn off your propane if you need to take 1 tank into town to fill it up. With this, it's got a selector switch right here that points to the tank you're using, right? So this would say I'm using this tank off of this pigtail. And then when this tank runs out of propane, it will automatically switch over to this tank. It will show red like it is right now because there's no pressure. And then, so then you switch over and have it point to the other tank, which will work if I'm not pushing the cover off. So you now have it switching over to this tank. That means this tank is now isolated. You can take this pigtail off of this tank, take this tank into town, get it filled, while your trailer is still running off of this tank. You don't actually have to shut down all your propane appliances. So that's the other thing you'll need, is a regulator. And other than that, you may need a length of hose to lengthen your current piece of hose. It looks like on my trailer they actually potentially thought of this, and they actually installed a long length of hose that goes to my existing regulator. My existing regulator isn't mounted at the tank, it's actually mounted at the body of the trailer. So it has a long enough hose that it will be able to run up and down through this space right here. So it'll be able to run up through and then up to my new regulator. If your existing hose on your trailer isn't long enough, you'll have to buy an extension to extend that out. On top of that, you will potentially need some yellow Teflon tape. Now you want the yellow one. It is the only one that is rated for gas, including propane. It will also say right on it, like this one right here, says for use on threaded joints of metal pipe not exceeding 3 inch-pounds in, where is it here, in assemblies handling gasoline, petroleum, oils, natural gas, propane, and butane. This is the one you need. I have the white tape in the shed that I use for my air compressors. Those are only good for air, and not even oxygen, just atmospheric air. And then you'll need various wrenches. Yours are probably gonna, potentially vary based on your trailer, but in my instance, I need a 3/8, I need a 1/2 inch, I need an 11/16, and then I need either 2 3/4 or 2 19 mils, or one of each, and that is for these nuts in order to jam them together. These ones are all to take apart and put together the system. The other thing that this does not come with is it does not come with any hardware to actually mount this plate to your trailer tongue. So there's a couple ways to do it. One way is if you have an open frame and this happens to work, you can actually use square U-bolts and wrap them around your frame, bring them up, bolt them down to above, In my case, mine actually has a solid flat steel plate across. So I'm gonna be mounting this to that, and I'm basically hoping that I can just use the current hardware that's holding my one propane tank on to hold this on. And then in my case as well, is in order to remove my old regulator, I'm going to be leaving 2 holes in my trailer. So you need some silicone or I don't know, just whatever, something to seal those holes up. You want to make sure it's exterior rated. Interior stuff can dry up, crack, and shrink, especially in the winter here. So you want exterior stuff that won't shrink and dry up. And that is everything. So let's get onto the front of the trailer here and let's get this all installed. Okay, so first thing we're going to do here is take off the propane tank and unwrap those batteries from their winter wraps. Okay, now that we have this unwrapped and opened up and the tank gone, we're going to take off this ring, which is held on by these 3 bolts that are threaded through this steel plate. Steel plate is welded to the trailer, so we're not going to be affecting that at all. We're going to be leaving that in place and putting the new plate on top of that one. Okay, this is the 1/2-inch wrench that I need. We'll keep those 3 and we basically throw this away. Or in reality, keep it for some scrap for another project somewhere. So we want this to the back. We want it to overhang enough to put the propane connection through. We don't really have to. It can come up this way, but that would just hold it nicely. I guess we could always just zip tie to that, because that actually works really nice for at least 2 of the bolts. This one will not line up whatsoever, no matter how we do it. So I think we're going to go with that positioning right there. That'll hold it. That'll hold it really well. All right, well, let's put these 2 bolts in. That's good and tight. It's already holding that solid. I don't even actually need a front bolt. You know what? That doesn't even need a front bolt on it. So I'm just going to go with that. I ain't going to drill any more holes at all. We'll just go with that, man. Like, that is... Like, I'm moving the whole trailer. You can't move that. And I thought maybe it would twist up, but this is such a nice heavy plate. And it's got so much strength that with this other plate in the back... like underneath it here, I think we're going to be good. I think that will work just fine. All right, well, now we can get on to mounting the rest of this here. Let's put the ready rod in. Okay, this ready rod, I'm also kind of quite lucky, is this just going to jam up against that plate. So there that is. So it just jammed right up against this plate right there. Then I'm going to throw these jam nuts on anyways, because I got them. And that was the 3/4 wrench. Okay, let's just back that one off just a hair. Jam that tight, and then just because I had to buy them in pairs, I may as well just jam the second one on here as well. And there we go, there's both jammed together. That ready rod won't thread in or out anymore. Okay, now if we were to throw a propane tank on here, it's going to sit right like that. Let's go grab a second one. I'll be right back. Okay, we got a second tank here. This one is actually empty, or at least very close to. And those sit on there really well. That is awesome. Okay. Alright, now that we have the tanks in place here and the base plate, whatever you want to call it, mounted, we're gonna run these down the line here and roughly set in where we're gonna put the new regulator. Okay, so the new regulator is going to sit on just like this. That's a little on the low side for these lines hitting the tanks. So I think we're going to have to go a little higher. Okay, that sits a bit better. That's nice. Okay. I'm not Loctiting these just yet, because I want to see how they'll handle, how they'll work out. I think just jamming them together, they'll be fine. So jamming them together, basically, I'm going to thread this one in a left-hand direction and this one in a right-hand direction. Just going to tighten them right up together. Should work right. Great. I'll jam those right together. That regulator's in place. It's never moving. It's going to hold great. If I find that this starts to vibrate apart or something, then I'll throw some Loctite in there. But I don't want to right now, just in case I do end up having to move it in the near future here for whatever reason. As we're putting this together, maybe something's just not going to fit quite right. So this part here, can't put it on the top like I used to with my old trailer because this isn't long enough. So we got to put it on this way now. So that's the problem I think I'm gonna run into with this regulator. See how the regulator now won't let this go down far enough. So it won't actually hold the tanks, and the ready rod's not long enough for me to hook onto the top of the tanks, which is what I normally do. Well, I guess we do it the intended way. Put that there. Run this nut down out of the way for now. All right. That tank will hold there, that tank will hold there. And then you just put the regulator right on top. And then the one wing nut holds everything down. Which, like I say, it does work, but then every time you're taking tanks off and stuff, your regulator is getting moved. I don't really like that idea. But, like that, we'll hold those tanks in place. They ain't moving whatsoever. So now, this here is where I need the silicone, because my regulator's mounted to the front of the trailer. We need to pull these two bolts to remove the regulator and to disconnect the main supply line, which is right here. So this is kind of on here, kind of flimsy. I don't want a chance. I was just going to leave this regulator in place so that I didn't have to deal with these holes, but I don't want a chance trying to disconnect this supply line and potentially ripping these bolts out of the trailer. It's going to be much better if I take them out and then I can fill those holes full of silicone, put those bolts back in, and then cover them over with silicone, and I won't have to worry about a leak. And so what, I have 2 bolts sitting in the front of the trailer for no apparent reason. So these are little 3/8. Okay, we're gonna fill these holes right full of silicone here, as much as we can fit in there. We do not want leaks. I'm just trying to force it in, which looks like that might be it. So let's go hit the other one. Well, that might be it there. All right. I don't care about cleaning them off just yet. We are going to shove these bolts back in here first, and then I'll clean off around. Are nicely coated all the way around. That'll do. I'll go get some paper towel and clean that up a little. What we need to do now, you can see I had to move the tanks and stuff so I could get in there with the caulk gun, is now we need to remove this fitting on the outlet of the old regulator, and we're going to reroute that propane line, which I have lots of line, to come up underneath the battery tray and up through here. So that is next. Now, as you're working around the batteries here and stuff, try to do your best to not you know, short out against the terminals. So work away from them as much as you can, but you know, I understand that's not always possible. Well, that came off relatively well. Alright, so there's the old regulator. You can see it's just a single tank. There's no auto switchovers, nothing like that. No tank selection. Just doesn't matter. It's just a plain old regulator. So keep that as a spare part. Now you can see that this has the yellow, see if you can see that here, right there, the yellow Teflon tape on here. That is gas rated Teflon tape. You do have to make sure it is gas rated. And as far as I know, the only color in, at least again in Canada, it's probably North America, is yellow. Let me get some of this excess silicone off this line that dripped on it. And off the power cable for my batteries. And make life easier, let's just move this up around up through here to where we're actually going to route it now. See, and then the new regulator's about here, so it will work well. Actually, oh, that'll work. I'm surprised they didn't have this tied up at all. They had it hanging. I think once I'm done here, I'll find a better route for it, and I'll tie it up so it's I don't potentially catch it on any you know, rocks or whatever while I'm going through the bush. So But anyways, so now we need to get rid of all this yellow tape so we can replace it with new stuff. You want to try to not get it down inside your propane line. And if you're finding that it's particularly difficult, or there's an exceptional amount of it, like a lot of it, one of the best ways to remove it is just take a wire brush and just basically clean the threads with a wire brush, and it'll pull that right off. But there's not much on here. I think I can just get it by hand here. Well, maybe not. I might have lost all my tail ends that I was planning on pulling on here. Sometimes just spinning it the opposite thread direction, you can get it to come. Nope, I guess we go get a wire brush and clean that properly. Okay, so went and got a wire brush. Now, because we're dealing with brass fittings, it's best if you use a brass brush. I know it doesn't really look like because it's dirty, but it is actually a brass brush. If you don't have a brass brush and you have to use like a steel one or stainless steel, you can, but just be, you know, gentle on it, right? Anyways, I'm gonna put this down here so I can get a better brush going on it. And just give it a bunch of brushes, and that'll just kind of tear that Teflon tape right out of there. And usually once you got it off one side, you can start to peel it out. Maybe not with this one. This is set in pretty good. Set into the threads really well. Alright, let's just keep brushing it. There we go. Now I got some coming out here. So, just got a tail in there, just kind of pull on it, work it off. There we go, we're nice and clean. All right, so you can see that this isn't a beveled connection. It is using the threads to seal. It's not like your connection on your propane tank, like right here. So your connection on a propane tank has this section right here, like this cone shape section. That's actually what's providing your seal. When you screw these on, that seals in against the same shape inside your propane tank, right? So if your connections are like that, you don't have to worry about thread sealing. But because this isn't, this is just a standard pipe thread as far as I know. I don't know if there's anything special about it because it is propane. You have to use a Teflon tape on it. So here's that Teflon tape we were talking about. It's the yellow brand, or yellow container, and the tape itself is actually yellow as well. And you basically just wrap that around the fitting. Now, you want to wrap it in the same direction that your threads are, because if you wrap it the opposite way, as you're threading on whatever's threading onto this flange, so in our case the regulator, it will actually unravel the tape you just put on, the Teflon tape. So you want to wrap it on the same way you're going to thread on, and then that way what it actually will do it will actually tighten that Teflon tape as you thread on to this fitting. And then basically what this Teflon tape does is it just fills in all the little gaps and spaces that are going to be between these threads and the threads of our regulator, making a gas tight seal. But because we're dealing with a petroleum, that is why you have to make sure that you are using gas regulated Teflon tape. And the big thing is you don't want to go over the edge of your fitting, because it will block your inlet or outlet, whatever it is, right? It'll block the hole in the end of the fitting. So you want to leave, you know, maybe a thread back, just stay back about a thread. And I'm making a mess of this, but it will work. So anyways, you pull it on, you pull it nice and tight.
Once you got a couple of wraps on there, you just pull it tight till it breaks, and that is it. And you can see it's inside the threads. It's going to hold inside the threads. My end isn't, you know, getting closed off any. It's not covering it up. And now as we thread on the regulator, it's going to further tighten that up, and that tape is just going to, like I say, fill in the gaps between the threads, because these threads are not going to be the same as the threads on the regulator, and they're not, you know, they're not perfectly smooth. They're not anything like that, and there's always an air gap. It's the same principle that like a thread lock works on. The thread lock just fills in those gaps, except it's like a glue, and it then glues basically the two threads together in whatever space it can fit in between the threads. That's it. So now we take our regulator and we thread it on to our line for the trailer. Pretty simple, easy peasy. A lot more simpler for some than others, but you know, I get the work done. I get the job done. Eventually, always. All right. I'm gonna have to figure out a good way to hold this. Give me half a second on that one. Something along these lines, maybe. All right, now, because we're introducing a twist into that propane line, we're going to work that twist out. Again, easier if you can just spin the regulator, but I can't, so I got to work with the twist in the hose as it comes. And you just keep tightening it up until it's tight. See if I can get in here a little better with this hook to hold that. Something along those lines might work. Oh yeah, that's working. And that is tight. All right, that's basically it right there. You've now plumbed in your new regulator. Find the best way for the twist in that line to work for you in our favor. Kind of wants to sit that way, but we're not going to let it because I want this facing backwards. So we're going to go with that. All right, that's it. That is the job right there. Let's put this all back together and see if we can figure out a way to test it. So far, a couple things that I've noticed is these pigtails work way better if you point the tank regulator out on an angle instead of straight back. It likes that better, and it keeps the pigtails away from these sharp edges of the tank guards. Regulator sits there quite nice. I still want to find a way to make that more permanent instead of it moving every time I change tanks out. And then I just ran a couple of zip ties to keep the propane line right down there away from any sharp edges and going back into the trailer right down there. And it's also not hanging down now like it was from the manufacturer. So far it looks really good. What do we have to do now is check for leaks, right? So I'm not smelling propane. That's all obviously already a good sign. Propane, you can smell that quite easily. But you know, let's open this back up. I'm not smelling any. That's it. Like I said, that's a really good sign. I hear no hissing, so if there's any leaks, they'd be very minor. But what you want to do is take a soapy water to all the connections, every connection. Not like I didn't do these connections, these were done right from the factory, from the manufacturer of the regulator. I'm going to check those anyways. So I'm going to go get some soapy water and we will spray it on all these connections and look for bubbles. And actually you need to open up both tanks just to make sure that both pigtails are pressurized and will show leaks if they are there. So yeah, for our final checks here is soapy water, spray it everywhere and look for bubbles. Not seeing none there. Hit this side, no bubbles there, that's good. This side, no bubbles. Up here at this end here, just because it's new doesn't mean it won't have potential problems, right? You hope not, but doesn't mean there won't be. No bubbles showing up there. Let's re-hit these again. Nothing there. Hit that one again. Nothing there. Now we have to test the one for the outlet of the regulator that we had to put the Teflon tape on. And this one I'm going to hit quite thoroughly because I would definitely want to make sure it is not leaking. Well, I'm sure if that was leaking, it would definitely show. Alright, and even though we didn't touch the connection, the one going to the trailer at the front here, I'm going to hit that as well, just because we were messing around with that line. 1 second, guy going by on like an enduro style dirt bike. Okay, there we are. So I'm going to test that one anyways, because we have been playing with this line and whatnot. Who knows, maybe it came loose. I doubt it, but it's always worth a check, right? Now that one down there does have a connector that will allow the propane line to rotate. And I do know it did rotate while we were working on it. So it's, again, it's just one of those extra checks just to make sure. And it looks fine. I don't see a single bubble anywhere in the system. I think we're good to go. Okay, well, that job is done. We've had a little treat going on the smoker all day and it's almost getting done here. Take a little look right there. That is a pork butt on the left and a picnic roast on the right. We're gonna cook those down and make a delicious pulled pork for supper tonight. So anyways, that's on the Pit Boss grill there. I love that thing. It's gone through a lot of torture. But anyways, as far as the install there for the propane, relatively simple. You know, if you're not recording, stuff like that, all that excess, it's probably somewhere between a half an hour and an hour job. Now, it all depends on how meticulous you are and your particular trailer setup. If I had to sit there and drill holes and stuff like that and figure out other ways to mount that plate down, obviously that would have taken even longer, stuff like that. Now, it did take me even longer than an hour, but that's because I'm recording and doing all that. So I would say, like, if you were only doing the propane itself and you had my exact type setup, man, you'd probably be done in like 15 minutes. If you knew exactly how you're going to run it and everything else, it would take no time whatsoever. It's fast if you use power tools, especially instead of using wrenches and stuff like I did. It'd be super fast. But, you know, I would allot a half hour to an hour, clean up stuff like that afterwards as well. But I know we didn't test it out here at the end of this video. Maybe at the end of next video I'll be able to test that out. Unfortunately, we lost the keys for the trailer right after getting it back from having some last minute warranty work done on it before the warranties ran out. So we are basically
waiting for a keyless lock to come in, and then I'm gonna have to break into the trailer, destroy the current locks in the process, and then we're going to install that that keyless lock. That is actually probably going to be video number 2 of the upgrade series for this trailer here. If you like this content or any of my other content, it's kind of all over the place, but it's mostly outdoor related type content or smoking type content. You know, subscribe, ring the bell. It really helps the channel out in growing and stuff. And other than that, you know, have a great day.